Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was a little girl, and her name was Emily. And she had a shop. There it is. It was rather an unusual shop because it didn't sell anything. You see, everything in that shop window was a thing that somebody had once lost, and Emily had found, and brought home to Bagpuss. Emily's cat, Bagpuss. The most important, the most beautiful, the most magical, saggy old cloth cat in the whole wide world. Well now, one day Emily found a thing. And she brought it back to the shop and put it down in front of Bagpuss, who was in the shop window, fast asleep as usual. But then Emily said some magic words. Bagpuss, dear Bagpuss, old fat furry catpuss, wake up and look at this thing that I bring. Wake up, be bright, be golden and light. Bagpuss, oh hear what I sing. And Bagpuss was wide awake. And when Bagpuss wakes up, all his friends wake up too. The mice on the mouse organ woke up and stretched. Madeleine, the rag doll. Gabriel, the toad. And last of all, Professor Yeffel, who was a very distinguished old woodpecker. He climbed down off his bookend and went to see what it was that Emily had brought. Now, what's all this? Bits and pieces. Broken bits and pieces of things.
No, nothing broken. Those things are not broken. Wait a minute. We'll fix them together. We will do it. We will fix it. We'll unfix it. We will fix it up bit by bit. We don't mind the tongue. We will find it all. Find each bit and make it. Find it all. Find each bit and make it fit.
Ah, yes, a turtle. Look, everybody, a turtle.
It's alive. It's real. It's nodding its tail.
No, it isn't real. It's only a model of a turtle.
Are there any real turtles here?
Oh, no, turtles live a long way across the sea. At least I think so. Madeleine, do you know of any real turtles living around here?
Oh, no. This country is too cold for turtles to live out of doors. There may be some in zoos and special places like that.
Yes, that's right. The only turtles around here that I've ever heard of were very cold and sad and very glad to go home to Montego Bay.
Oh, yes. How did they go home?
Shall I tell you?
Yes, tell us.
All right, then. If you get the roll of turtle music.
The marvelous mechanical turtle organ.
Oh, I'll tell you of turtles who swam in a lily pond around and around on a cold summer's day. They sang of their loved ones of whom they were very fond in their tropical homeland so far, far away. Oh, the turtles they wept as they swam round their lily pool. We wish we could just see our loved ones one day. Said one, though you may think that I am a silly fool to go there by boat's a convenient way.
Oh, the turtles turned round and walked out of their lily pool to stop for red
ship bore them over the blue briny sea, until they hove to in the Bay of Montego, and there all their uncles and aunts they did see.
What a pretty song. How nice. I did enjoy that. I do like a song with a happy ending. It was a lot of rubbish, of course. Absolute rubbish. Turtles don't go on ships and buses. Turtles don't even wink. It's all nonsense. And in any case, we haven't fitted all the pieces together yet, have we? What about those other pieces?
We will fit it up, we will fit it up, we will fit it up bit by bit. We'll locate it, complicate it, find each bit and make it fit. Find each bit and make it fit.
Look at that. That's a little man. He's a funny-looking little chap, isn't he? He's not a funny-looking chap, as you put it. He is a Chinese gentleman of great wisdom and respectability. I think his name is Huang Hai, and if I am right, he is the wise man of Ling Po. Yes, well, I dare say, but Bagpuss, you must think some Chinese thoughts for me. Chinese thoughts? Oh dear, I don't know. I think I shall need a Chinese thinking cap to think Chinese thoughts.
Come on, let's try Bagpuss a thinking cap. I can a cap. Here's one. This will do. Yes!
Yes, thank you, yes. Now, what Chinese thoughts shall I think? Yes, the wise man of Ling Po lived on an island. It was an island in the middle of a Chinese lake. An island in the middle of a Chinese lake. How about that? That will do nicely. I will begin the story. It was a long time ago. There lived on an island by a lake in Ling Po a wise man. He was very old and very wise, and all he wanted to do was sit beside the lake and think, and watch the leaves growing on the trees. His favorite companions were the turtles, who would come out of the water to sit beside him. The wise man particularly liked the turtles because they didn't talk or ask him silly questions. They would just bow politely to him, and he would bow politely to them, and they would sit in the sun. The wise man and the turtles would have been perfectly happy, except for the fact that there was a bridge between the island and the shore. And over this bridge would come the people of Ling Po to ask the wise man questions and bring him presents. The wise man was always polite to them. He usually thought their questions were silly, and he didn't really want their presents. But he was happy to put up with them until the day they brought him soup. Yes, one day a person came over the bridge to the island and presented the wise man with a bowl of soup. Now, this person said it was exceptionally delicious soup. It was a new recipe. Everybody thought it was marvelous. It was turtle soup. Now, it was many years since the wise man had been angry, but the thought that he was being offered soup made from his best friends displeased him so much that he threw the soup, bowl and all, at the grinning face of the silly person, and then drove him from the island with a big stick. The wise man was really furious. He said, "The people of Ling Po are stupid as well as silly. I will have nothing more to do with them. I will break the bridge so they cannot come to my island." Then the wise man took his big hammer and walked across the bridge. As he crossed each section of the bridge, he swung his hammer. Thump, thump, and smashed the piece of bridge he had just crossed. Thump, 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 thump. The people of Ling Po watched him, and they were amazed. They had always thought of him as a wise man, and here he was doing something very silly. He was breaking his own bridge. When he reached the shore, the wise man spoke to the people. He said, "The turtles are my friends, and do you no harm. Please do not catch them and make them into soup." Then the people said, "Why should we do what you say?" And the wise man replied, because I am the wise man of Lingpo, and the turtles are my friends. Then the people laughed. They said, you were once the wise man of Lingpo, but now you are the silly man of Lingpo, because you have broken your bridge. The wise man said, I do not need the bridge any more. I shall live on my island alone and have nothing more to do with you. Then the people laughed still more. How will you get to your island, you silly wise man? You have broken your own bridge. Then the wise man said, I am the wise man, and I know many things you do not know. I tell you to stop catching turtles and making them into soup. And now I will go home. The people were still laughing as he walked down to the edge of the water. But they stopped laughing very suddenly when they saw him walk briskly across the surface of the water and step onto his island, without, it seemed, getting more than the soles of his feet wet. They said, that wise man must be very wise and full of magic. We must do as he says. So the people stopped catching turtles, and the wise man lived happily alone on the island.
Oh, is that the end of the story?
Certainly. How else would it end?
But how did he walk back to his island? He wasn't really doing magic, was he?
No, of course not. Bagpuss, think about what the turtles were doing while the wise man was talking to the people.
Oh, yes, of course, the turtles, yes.
Yes, the wise man's friends, the turtles. They piled themselves up on the bed of the lake and made stepping stones just under the surface of the water. Then the wise man just stepped from one pile of turtles to the next. And as he stepped off, the turtles swam away. The people of Lingpo never found out what had happened. They thought it was all magic, and they never caught turtles again. Also, they couldn't cross to the island to ask the wise man silly questions. So he just sat beside the lake thinking his thoughts and watching the leaves growing on the trees. Sometimes he would catch a turtle's eye, and then they would nod and smile to each other as they remembered how they had fooled everybody. But most of the time, they just sat in the sun and were happy.
Look, the wise man.
Of course. Chinese are very courteous and polite people. Now, mice, take them and put them in the window. So the mice pulled them to the front of the window and left them there, bowing and nodding to each other, so that if anybody who had lost a Chinese wise man and a turtle should happen to come past, he would see them there and come in to collect them. And so their work was done. Bagpuss gave a big yawn and settled down to sleep. And of course, when Bagpuss goes to sleep, all his friends go to sleep too. The mice were ornaments on the mouse organ. Gabriel and Madeleine were just dolls. And Professor Yaffle was a carved wooden bookend in the shape of a woodpecker. Even Bagpuss himself, once he was asleep, was just an old, saggy cloth cat. Baggy and a bit loose at the seams. But Emily loved him. Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was a little girl, and her name was Emily. And she had a shop. There it is. It was rather an unusual shop because it didn't sell anything. You see, everything in that shop window was a thing that somebody had once lost, and Emily had found, and brought home to Bagpuss. Emily's cat, Bagpuss, the most important, the most beautiful, the most magical, saggy old cloth cat in the whole wide world. Well now, one day Emily found a thing. And she brought it back to the shop and put it down in front of Bagpuss, who was in the shop window, fast asleep as usual. But then Emily said some magic words. Bagpuss, dear Bagpuss, old fat furry cat puss, wake up and look at this thing that I bring. Wake up, be bright, be golden and light. Bagpuss, oh hear what I sing. And Bagpuss was wide awake. And when Bagpuss wakes up, all his friends wake up too. The mice on the mouse organ woke up and stretched. Madeleine, the rag doll. Gabriel, the toad. And last of all, Professor Yaffle, who was a very distinguished old woodpecker. He climbed down off his bookend and went to see what it was that Emily had brought.
Well, that is a pink elephant. It's made of straw, it's very tatty, and it hasn't any ears. I'm not surprised it looks sad.
Yes, it does look sad. Poor old thing. It's just as well it is a pink elephant, not a real one.
Why, what difference would that make?
If it was a real elephant, it couldn't fly.
Fly? Fly? Elephants don't fly.
I don't see why not. Pink straw elephants could fly.
Ridiculous. Whoever heard of such a thing?
The elephant is a pretty bird. Its hair is long and wavy. It makes its nest in a rhubarb tree and lays its eggs in gravy.
Ridiculous, ridiculous, ridiculous.
How about this? The elephant is a pretty bird. It flits from bough to bough. It makes its nest in a rhubarb tree and whistles like a cow.
Ridiculous, ridiculous. Oh, I see. Yes. Perhaps that's how it lost its ears. Yes, I think that may be how it lost its ears. I think. Yes. Yes. Well, little pink elephants made of straw, should not go flying in the rain. This one did. And look what happened to him. What a sad story. That poor elephant all alone on a desert island.
Oh, poor elephant! Bagpuss, Bagpuss, that's the life that's all alive to a happy ending. Happy elephant ending. Bagpuss again.
So Bagpuss thought again. That poor pink straw elephant was alone on a desert island. But worse than that, he couldn't fly because his ears were all wet and tattered. In fact, they were coming away at the cotton where they were sewn on. And worst of all, he was hungry. Why, you see, that is how the elephant lost his ears. He gave them to the mice so they could use them as a boat. Oh, yes, yes, of course. I'll think some more. That's all very well, but telling silly stories hasn't done any good to this wretched piece of straw. What it needs, first of all, is a good clean-up.
Oh, that's much better.
Yes, but he still hasn't got any ears.
Well, perhaps he doesn't need to have ears. It may never have had any ears.
Ridiculous. Of course it has ears. All elephants have ears.
I don't see why it has to have ears. I mean, lots of animals and birds can hear perfectly well without having great flippy, floppy, flappy ears. Hello. What are you looking for, Mike?
There's a roll of ear music. Ear song. You sing it. We play the pictures.
All right, then. Where is it?
Here it is. Heave. The marvelous mechanical mouse organ.
What on earth is that?
I know. It's a bird. It is a lark.
But the ears.
Of course. That is what the song is about. If you were the morning lark and singing high above the park, the last thing you would ask to have is ears.
Good. Yes, that's right.
Now, what on earth is that supposed to be?
I know. If you were a garden snail and lived below the kitchen pail, the last thing you would say you'll have is ears.
Good. Yes, that's right.
What on earth is that? Yeah, it looks like a crocodile. A crocodile with ears. I know. Poor old knobbly crocodile has lost his warm inviting smile because he's made to wear a pair of ears.
That looks like a fish.
No, it's a dolphin. If you were a mighty dolphin, you would find it quite revolting if you grew a pair of flappy ears.
What on earth is that?
I think that must be a person. You know, a bloke.
You couldn't call that odd bloke a shipping clerk or stockbroker because he wears a pair of hairy ears.
That will do, that will do. That was a terrible rhyme. Odd bloke, stockbroker. And it hasn't done the elephant any good at all. Yeah, now, mice, the elephant is your friend. You must decide what to do about his ears. We leave the decision entirely to you.
It's a hat. It is a sort of hat with ears.
What a good idea. A hat with sort of flaps at the sides. The mice fitted it very carefully on the elephant's head. It suited him very well. Then they pushed him to the front of the window and left him there so that if anybody came past who had lost a pink straw elephant without any ears, they would see him and come in to collect him. And so their work was done. Bagpuss gave a big yawn and settled down to sleep. And of course, when Bagpuss goes to sleep, all his friends go to sleep too. The mice were ornaments on the mouse organ. Gabriel and Madeleine were just dolls. And Professor Yaffle was a carved wooden bookend in the shape of a woodpecker. Even Bagpuss himself, once he was asleep, was just an old, saggy cloth cat. Baggy and a bit loose at the seams. But Emily loved him. Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was a little girl, and her name was Emily. And she had a shop. There it is. It was rather an unusual shop because it didn't sell anything. You see, everything in that shop window was a thing that somebody had once lost, and Emily had found, and brought home to Bagpuss. Emily's cat, Bagpuss. The most important, the most beautiful, the most magical, saggy old cloth cat in the whole wide world. Well now, one day Emily found a thing. And she brought it back to the shop and put it down in front of Bagpuss, who was in the shop window, fast asleep as usual. But then Emily said some magic words. Bagpuss, dear Bagpuss, old fat furry cat puss, wake up and look at this thing that I bring. Wake up, be bright, be golden and light. Bagpuss, oh hear what I sing. And Bagpuss was wide awake. And when Bagpuss wakes up, all his friends wake up too. The mice on the mouse organ woke up and stretched. Madeleine, the rag doll. Gabriel, the toad. And last of all, Professor Yaffle, who was a very distinguished old woodpecker. He climbed down off his bookend and went to see what it was that Emily had brought.
A box. Yeah, a box. A box of what, I wonder? Oh, that's odd. A box with a front door.
That's not a box. That is a house.
A house? No, that's a box. Who would live in a box like that?
Mouse house. Mice live in that.
Mouse house? Ridiculous.
No, it's not. It's a mouse house. It is. We will open it. Pop, pop, pop. We will grow it and we'll show it. This is what we have got. This is what we have got.
Oh, yes. Very interesting. It does seem to be a sort of house. Windows and doors, look. And a sort of crane on the top. There's a wheel on the side of it, too. Very peculiar. I wonder what sort of mouse would live in that sort of house.
I know who lives in it.
Do you, Charlie Mouse? Well, you tell me.
A miller.
A miller? Yes, of course. That is a mill. And that is the mill wheel on the side. It's a water mill.
Of course. We know a song about a miller, don't we, Gabriel?
That's right, and the mice have a roll of music for it too.
The marvelous mechanical mouse organ.
Plowman, plowman, plow me a field, turn me an acre of land. Plowman, plowman, harrow the ground, drill in the seed and roll it down. For the year will turn and the spring come round, and the seed will grow.
Shine the sun and rain the rain, fall the shivery snow. Frost and hail and wind again as the year will go.
Farmer, farmer, the field is ripe, tall and straight they stand. Farmer, farmer, it's time to reap, time to combine the corn to keep. The straw will blow and the chaff will leap, and the grain will fall.
Shine the sun and rain the rain, fall the shivery snow. Fog and sleet and hail again as the year will go.
Miller, miller, take up the grain, pour it out like sand. Miller, miller, open the rill to turn the wheel and work the mill, to grind the grain to flour and fill the sacks below.
Shine the sun and rain the rain, fall the shivery snow. Hail and wind and sleet again as the year will go.
Baker, baker, the flour is here, soft and fine and bland. Baker, baker, get out of bed, put that silly old hat on your head. Bake me a loaf of golden bread, and then I'll go.
Blow the wind and rain the rain, fall the shivery snow. Soon the sun will shine again as the year will go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, certainly we don't really know what it is, except that it is some sort of mill or house. We don't know who lives there. I suppose somebody must live there.
We'll ring the bell.
house mill. What does it make?
Chocolate biscuits.
Chocolate biscuits. Oh, ridiculous. Fiddlesticks and flapdoodle. There is no such thing as a mill that makes chocolate biscuits. What does it make the chocolate biscuits out of?
Breadcrumbs and butter beans.
Oh, no. Ridiculous, ridiculous. You can't make chocolate biscuits out of breadcrumbs and butter beans.
Are you ready, mice? Mice ready for duty, sir. Butter beans and breadcrumbs ready for inspection, sir.
Yeah. Very good, very good. Thank you, Charlie Mouse. Yes, well, yes. Very well, very well. Carry on then. Thank you.
Come on, then. Bring them over here. Bring them over to the mill. Which do you want first? Breadcrumbs first, please. Heave, 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 heave. That's the breadcrumbs. Now the butter beans. The marvelous mechanical mouse mill.
Hey, look. A chocolate biscuit.
More breadcrumbs. More butter beans. Keep this going.
Chocolate biscuits. Real chocolate biscuits. I think I might just taste one. Oh, he's taken it away. They are chocolate biscuits, all right, Yaffle. The mice put breadcrumbs and butter beans in the top, and they work the mill, and out come chocolate biscuits. Impossible. I don't believe it. It isn't true. I'm going round the back to see what's happening. Yes.
Yaffle, don't go round the back, no.
Yes. Yaffle is going round the back. Oh, yes. Right then. Stop the mill. Let us see what goes on here. Now then, there is the place where the breadcrumbs go in. And that leads down to, yes, the breadcrumb bag. And that's the place where the butter beans went in. And that leads down to, yes, the butter bean bag. And then I suppose you mice wheel the bags round to the front and hoist them up again.
That's right. That's what we do.
So what makes the chocolate biscuits?
Put a chocolate biscuit on here. It slides down the chute. And Willie Mouse brings it back again.
So you use the same chocolate biscuits over and over again.
That's right. Over and over again.
So it's all a trick. You don't make chocolate biscuits out of butter beans and breadcrumbs.
Oh, no. No, of course not. Butter beans and breadcrumbs, you can't make
It's a trick. It's a deception. It's an illusion. A rotten trick. Bagpuss, do you realize those mice have been playing a trick on us? Do you realize? Bagpuss. Oh, yes, well, I thought it was a trick. I did sort of suspect it. I mean, You can't really make chocolate biscuits out of butter beans and...
Look out, everybody. Bagpuss is going to sleep again. Push the mill into the window. Quick now. He'll be asleep in a minute. Hurry. Yaffle, back on your bookend. Quick.
Bagpuss gave a big yawn and settled down to sleep. And of course, when Bagpuss goes to sleep, all his friends go to sleep too. The mice were ornaments on the mouse organ. Gabriel and Madeleine were just dolls. And Professor Yaffle was a carved wooden bookend in the shape of a woodpecker. Even Bagpuss himself, once he was asleep, was just an old, saggy cloth cat. Baggy and a bit loose at the seams. But Emily loved